Hey guys, I'm Rhonda Dracoulis with RK3 Designs. I'm going to teach you how to do the coolest granite effect with a paintbrush, a popsicle stick, and some cool effects in a can. So stay tuned and enjoy the video. Okay, so because the finish that we're doing is mostly white, we're going to be using white Aluminite dye. And the epoxy that we're going to use is the Art Coat from Stone Coat Countertop. The reason we're using the Art Coat as opposed to their original formula is because the Art Coat has substantially more UV protectant to it. So it's really, really good for white finishes and light colored finishes. So that's what we're going to do. It has the same properties as far as scratch resistance, high heat resistance, open time. So I really do like this product. It's also a 1-to-1. So I'm going to do the same with part A and part B. Now we pour part B first. And the reason we do that is part B is a lot less viscous. It's quite a bit more runny, thinner, I guess you'd call it. So I like to put it in first. I get a little more accurate measurement. So I come in with part A, which is quite a bit thicker, and it's going to fall down through the part B quicker, and I just get a better reading, more accurate measurement. Now, if you accidentally put part A first, it's no big deal. Okay, so we're gonna mix for 2 minutes. So after I mix it with the paddle, I like to come in and scrape my edges so that I get all the material that's on the edge of the bucket that's not mixed up. I get that into the rest of the mixture. So I'll scrape my edge, stir it up. Scrape my edges and stir it up. I'll do this a few times. And what this is ensuring is that all that material in that cup is mixed up thoroughly. Now, a good way to check yourself and make sure that you're doing it correctly and mixing all that up good enough is after you pour your epoxy on your project, turn your bucket upside down and then let it sit for a couple of days. The whole lining should pop out and you should have a clean lining on your bucket, just like it was new. If you have sticky spots consistently, that means you're not getting all of that material stirred up well enough, and that could cause you to have some sticky spots on your surface, on your countertop. So we have our epoxy mixed, and I'm going to come in with the white Aluminite dye. I do sell this on my website, and I'm going to tint it opaque. I don't want to be able to see through it. So when I look, I don't want to be able to see the wood grain. And we're just going to pour it on the surface. And I like to torch it just a little bit. Torching it before you trowel it out or smooth it out just kind of helps it flow just a little bit better. Trowel it out. I like to use a 1/8 inch trowel. It's going to leave just the necessary amount on top of the surface. Now at this point you can either choose to chop it with your brush. I like to use my hands. And the reason I like to use my hands is because I can take this epoxy and push it over the edge and use my fingers to make sure that epoxy rolls over and up under the edge. That way that epoxy will continue to just run over nice and smooth, and I'll get a pretty edge. It's pretty warm in here today, so my epoxy is going to be pretty fluid. If I were pouring this into a cooler environment, it would be a little thicker, but since I'm in about 78 degrees, it's going to be a little bit more fluid. I'll torch it. When I torch, I'm going to come in about 1.5 inches from the surface, and I'm just going to move at a constant speed across the surface. Now, my epoxy is very fresh. It's very fluid. So what I want to do is give it about 15 minutes to start kind of thickening up just a little bit before we go to the next step. So we'll let it sit and we'll be right back. We've let it set up about 15 minutes maybe. Now we're just gonna fog with different colors of gray and some white, and then see what happens. All right, so what I have is smoke gray, Rust-Oleum paint. I have it in smoke gray and I have it in dark gray. So I'm just gonna fog the top. Come back in with the smoke gray. Now I don't want 100% coverage. I'm gonna do a little bit less of the dark. And I think I'll come in with a tiny bit of white to give it a little bit of contrast, even though that we have white on the bottom. Then I think I'm even gonna touch it with a tiny bit of black, just a little bit. All right, let that sit for just a second. All right, I'm gonna prime my brush with some of the drips. All right, then I'm just gonna come in and start cross hatching so I get some really cool designs on the top. Don't wanna overwork it. All you're trying to do is get that paint to get kind of a design on it. So be very random, not pushing hard, just kind of letting that brush skip over the surface. Now you can see just by itself, without me doing anything else, how the epoxy and the spray paint start to really do some cool effects. This is one of the finishes that you have to let the epoxy take its time and do the finish. You can't judge this right off the bat. You have to walk away, leave it alone. All right, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna give it about 10 minutes. So it's been setting up for just a little bit. Now I'm gonna come back in and I'm gonna torch it just a little bit. If you have the ability to tilt your surface, this is another way to get a really cool design. If you can't, that's okay. It's gonna meld on its own. But if you do have the ability to do it, this is the time. By tilting, you'll get some really cool movement. Now you don't want the epoxy to move too fast. If it moves too fast, it starts to develop little fingers and little drips. So we want it to move fairly slowly. Now if your epoxy has started to set up just a little bit too much and it's not moving as much as you'd like, just come in and torch it a little bit. And that'll cause it to move a little faster. So by tilting it, what you're also doing is softening the pattern. You're gonna soften all these hard lines and give it a little bit of a smoother, softer look. All right, so now, before we go to the next step, which is really gonna be cool because we're gonna cause some fracture lines, we're gonna let this set a good, probably 30 minutes, because we really want our epoxy to get to the stage where it's very slow, very thick, and it's really not dripping off the sides anymore. All right, so we've been sitting about 45 minutes, starting to really thicken up, and this is a technique I really like to do. I like to come under and get my drips, and then use those drips as some fun veins and fracture lines across my piece. You can come on, get it off the table, drip it across, and just kind of have fun with it. Because all of these lines, because the epoxy is still very, very fluid, they're gonna spread out and they're gonna be very translucent. You're really not gonna see them. It's just gonna look like a natural little fault line. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is have fun and create some really cool, I'm not gonna really call them veins. They're more of fractures. And as they move, they really start to look organic. All right, so I've got black paint, and I'm just gonna come down here and put me a nice little puddle, I guess I'd call it. And then we're just gonna come in here and kind of lay down some veins or some fractures. Now you want to do this very random. You don't want to do a real pattern. Just kind of move it across and see how these little lines are forming. That's because that epoxy is sticking on the stick, and as I push it down and come up, those little lines are moving. See how I'm causing them to move? And they're causing little micro fractures. You can go all over your board. You can go just in a few areas across your board. You can branch off just about anything you want to do. And it'll really cause some neat looks. So I'm gonna actually do two things. I'm gonna get really solid on this side, and I'm gonna get solid on this side. This side I'm just gonna leave one vein so you guys can see two different looks. All right, so we're gonna kind of let that sit and let it move. Look at this vein, what it's doing all by itself. We haven't even put heat on it, we haven't tilted it, we haven't fractured it, we haven't done anything like that. You can also come in here with some different colors. Let's try a white. All right, let's hit it a little bit with white and even some gray. I don't want to do as much. White can kind of take over your piece really quick. You could come in here with a accent color. Just about anything that you can think of would be really cool. All right, so now we're gonna start fracturing, and I'm gonna spray a little bit of white. We're gonna cause kind of a granite look. So very, very softly, very, very softly, I'm gonna fog. I don't want a lot of paint. I just want a little bit. I don't want to be a solid fracture. I just want to kind of give it a nice, kind of a soft look. And then we're going to fracture a little bit. I'm coming in with 91% isopropyl alcohol. And I'm going to come up nice and high. And I'm going to fracture it. So I really like how that alcohol causes the spray paint to start moving and look a little more organic. If you want some bigger fractures, you can come in with your hand and spot, and then you're gonna get some fracturing with your white spray paint. Now, if you wanted to come over here and get a little bit heavier fog, then you're gonna get more of a true granite look. But that's kind of not really what I'm going for right now. At this point is where you just start layering and having fun. So I'm gonna come in with a product called Granite Effect. And it's from Montana Granite. They also have the same type product at Home Depot or Lowe's, and it's called their Stone Effect. So I'm gonna come on here and just kind of, that's gonna give a background of a very granite look. We're building and building and building. Now you gotta remember, everything's still moving. So all of these veins that we have here are gonna move over time. You can help them out if you really kind of want to get it to be a really organic look. Heat up just a little bit, and you can tilt, and you'll get those veins to start moving. And again, if you don't have the ability to tilt your surface that you're going to be doing your project on, don't tilt your sample board. You're going to get the same effect. It's just going to take a little bit longer. And I love how tilting really softens out those veins. All right, so I do like how that one vein just kind of runs across. All right, so now we're gonna come in with a really fun product. I call it silly string, but it's the Montana Marble Effect. Now you can really start getting crazy. And you can make this granite as busy as you want to. And it just seems like the more you layer and layer and layer effects, the cooler it gets. All right, so the key to this is to come up high, spray it, and let it float down to the surface. You don't want to get right here and try to put it somewhere. So you'll get way up high. First of all, you want to practice off the table or off the board so you kind of see what pattern it's spraying. And then you're going to come up nice and high and just throw it over. And like I said, you can get as crazy as you want, as wild as you want. I've seen some pretty wild granite that's got a lot of character. So that looks cool. I'm gonna do the same thing with the white. I think that looks cool as heck. I love all of the detail and all of the design that you have over here. Now, if you don't want your background to be quite so gray, you could do maybe just a white and then come in and do these exact same effects, just straight over white. Don't have any of the gray background, just straight over the white, and then you're gonna have a lot of black and white contrast, which is really cool. So there's so many different ways that you can take these products and create a really cool look. All right, so let's see. Should I walk away or should I find something else to do with it? Let me think. What about if we fracture over here on this black part? Let's see what that would look like. So I'm gonna get some black spray paint. So we're gonna kind of fog right over here. We're gonna give a little bit darker look. And then we're gonna come in here and we're gonna fracture. All right, so that looks cool too. We're just adding layer upon layer of effects. So I'm just flipping my fingers with a little bit of alcohol on there, and we're starting to get that paint to fracture. So that looks cool, I like that. All right, so this needs to set a good 30 minutes or so. And it's probably at that point gonna quit moving, and I'll come back and take some pictures and you can see what the final piece is gonna look like. All right guys, so what do you think? What stage would you stop at? Would you do a gray background? Would you do it just on white? Let me know. Put some comments down there and let me know what you think. Would you add an accent color? I'm thinking we could probably use some turquoise. What do y'all think? Guys, and if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, hit the bell for future notifications, subscribe to our channel. We're trying to get our numbers up. Visit us on our website, RK3designs.com. All of these products are available on our site, and check out the rest of our YouTube videos. We have a lot of them, and let me know what you think. All right, guys, until next time, you know what to do. Don't be scared, move forward, and be creative.